Good morning, Malcolm. It's great to see you again.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Malcolm, you've over 35 years of military intelligence experience. When you look at what happened in Moscow yesterday, the explosion of the drone over the Kremlin, what do you make of that?
Well, right off the bat, I was one incredulous. The first video we saw was just a puff of smoke coming over the dome building near the official the official palace in the Kremlin off Red Square. But there are very simple things that people in the intelligence community look for before they'll believe anything. Okay. First, we always consider who, what, when, where, and how. But the most important thing we consider is why. So when someone says, hey, there's been a drone attack on Red Square in the Kremlin, I want to know why. So why would they do that? Why would they hit that specific building? Why would they launch it and strike at 2 a.m. on a Sunday night, Monday morning? Doesn't make much sense. So then we go back and we start looking at the technical things, all right? This drone appears to have been a small aircraft, about the size of what we call a loitering munition, a suicide drone, which means it has a very small battery and a very small flight life. And even if it was launched from within Moscow, why would you hit that particular building? Okay, so immediately all of these irregularities popped right up, and it immediately brought to mind that Russia is famous for staging false flag attacks, fake attacks to make it look like somebody else did it. So that was my initial cut was, this doesn't make sense. Russia would only do this to have the video of an explosion near the Kremlin for internal consumption purposes only. Does nothing for Ukraine, does nothing for NATO, does nothing for the world in general, but it would play very well in Uganda or, Brazil, where they're trying to make inroads to claiming that NATO is attacking them and Ukraine is attacking their homeland.
So when you saw what happened in Moscow, was your impression this is going to be a one-off, or is this something that Russia is going to be doing all the time?
Well, if you think about it, Russia's been doing it all the time. This constant drumbeat of victimhood as a nation. Vladimir Putin was an old KGB officer back from the old days, the 1980s, right up to the collapse of the Soviet Union. When I wrote my last book, The Plot to Betray America, I went to that office that he worked in Dresden, Germany, and I met with the experts who studied Putin, his relationships with the East German Stasi, how he recruited spies, and the kind of operations that he was in. When he became, essentially the vice mayor of the city of St. Petersburg, used KGB assets to flush out the Russian mafia, make billions of dollars, he created this hybrid world where the old school KGB activities, came in and were used in modern oligarchical Russia. Now, what we see is lots of these old KGB strategies, and they love false flag. Always play the victim. Someone must always lash out at you, and then you must retaliate in a massive way. Case in point, in 1999, apartment buildings started to blow up all over Russia, killing hundreds and hundreds of civilians. But the last one that didn't blow up, because a local neighborhood watch got together and they caught Russian FSB intelligence officers planting explosives, RDX, that's the explosive we use in atomic bombs, in an apartment building that they were going to blow up, and the plot got blown. Putin got elected president on the strength of these mass murders, which are now attributed to Russian intelligence, so that he can invade Chechnya, obliterate the opposition there, and install, a vassal state. So for him to say, hey, we're going to hit the Kremlin, we're going to make it look like the Ukrainians did it, then I can start getting support from various places in the world, like Uganda, Brazil, Singapore, and that will strengthen our position. He will use any, part of the Russian intelligence dark arts to get himself off the hook for the disaster he created in Ukraine.
So knowing what we know about Putin and his background and all of your military intelligence experience, what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, it's very interesting because the Russians are really going to push this propaganda that it was an assassination attempt against Vladimir Putin, which is laughable. He doesn't live in the Red Square. He doesn't live in the Kremlin. He lives an hour south of the city in a massive armed compound. So this is really intended for propaganda purposes to sell to try to create an opposition to the Western support for Ukraine. That being said, he will also make it operationally painful. So there have all been reports that, strategic bombers are moving around and, flying are going to probably make another cruise missile blitz against Ukraine. If they do, there's no difference between yesterday and today, right? I mean, as I like to say, what are they going to do? Invade Ukraine again and get slaughtered? So Russia is doing this for propaganda purposes. They will make lots of videos that will play on the Russian television channels, and they will continue the genocidal war that they're already waging.
Malcolm, thank you so much for your time. That's a great explanation. And thank you for your service.
It's my pleasure. Slava Ukraini.